She transformed female rap forever. She broke records that stood there for decades and created one of the most loyal fan bases of music. But now when we talk about her as of late, we talk about the controversies, the online feuds. So the real question is, what happened to Nicki Minaj? Hey, this is my first YouTube video ever, so if you really enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. Go follow me on Instagram. I'm gonna do polls over there, so if you want me to cover any other celebrity and do a deep dive on them, just comment down below. It doesn't matter what genre of music. But in the future, I'm gonna be doing pop culture content and celebrity deep dives. So if you like that, please subscribe. So Onika Tanya Maraj, later known as Nicki Minaj, was born on the 8th of December 1982 to parents Carol and Robert Maraj. She was born in St. James in Trinidad and later moved to Queens, New York at the age of 5, which means that she is an immigrant. Please keep that in mind because this does come into play in the scandal section. So Nicki Minaj did experience a lot of hardships. Her family struggled financially and her dad was battling with addiction. They also had a history of domestic violence. So Robert Maraj, Nicki's father, was reportedly doing substances, as we've said before. And she said when he was on something that starts with C and ends with Ain, he would be more peaceful. But then when he would drink, he would become loud and violent. So you can imagine what an unstable environment she grew up in. Nicki Minaj herself has said that she wasn't afraid of him or that he would hurt her, but she was more afraid of what her father would do to her mother. According to Nicki, one night her mother had a really bad feeling that something terrible was going to happen. So she decided to send Nicki and her siblings to go stay with family and friends. And when Nicki got back, she learned that her father had actually set fire to the family home. But luckily, Carol Maraj, Nicki's mom, escaped unharmed. This goes to show just how unstable and how unsettling the environment was for Nicki. Nicki has recalled times where her father would actually sell household items to go fuel his addiction. So her mom had to take up multiple jobs just to keep food on the table. She has said herself that she didn't actually dream of getting rich for the luxury and nice things, but she actually dreamed of getting rich to actually help her mom escape. And just hearing that alone, guys, literally breaks my heart. Like, that is literally so sad. So to cope with what was going on at home, she found an escape in creating, writing, and reading books. And this is where some people believe that she came up with the alter egos, Harajuku Barbie and Roman Zolanski. Safe to say that Nicki did really have this star power that drew people in. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna put my opinion all over this video, but she's just a ball of talent. And I feel like she was meant to become Nicki Minaj. Like, there was no other way, because that girl, too much talent right there. Instead of waiting for a record deal, Nicki Minaj decided to put out the mixtape called Playtime Is Over. But before we get to that, mixtapes are very important because these are songs that rappers come out with that allow them to express themselves before a label is willing to actually invest. And in 2007, she dropped this mixtape, and this is where she really broke out. Hip-hop blogs started covering her. YouTube clips started gaining traction, and people weren't just talking about her rapping. They would talk about her colorful wigs, her different accents, and alter egos. It was clear that Nicki Minaj understood something many artists didn't. People remember characters. Long before social media influencers built personal brands, Nicki Minaj was subconsciously building one. By 2009, Nicki's growing buzz was actually noticed by Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne actually invited Nicki Minaj to appear onto his Young Money track, Bedrock. And this is when she was introduced to a new audience. Lil Wayne was already a major name in the hip-hop industry. Soon after, she actually signed to the label Young Money Entertainment. And this label is actually home to artists like Lil Wayne, obviously, Tyga, and Drake. So you can imagine just how big this label was. So it was obvious. Being signed to this label instantly elevated Nicki Minaj from just being an underground sensation to being one of the most anticipated new artists. After years of rejection endless mixtapes and dead-end jobs, Nicki Minaj was finally receiving her breakthrough. And no one could have predicted, not even Lil Wayne, just how much Nicki Minaj was going to change the game, change the face of female rap forever. Years later, Beam Up Scotty would actually be recognized as one of the redefining mixtapes of its era and later re-released onto streaming platforms in 2021. Although she actually wasn't famous yet, with this mixtape, people really did take notice to her aggressive punchlines, her creativity, and just her persona. People really loved it, and this is where we start to see the movement from the underground rap scene. In 2008, she released the mixtape called Sucker Free, and this is when she starts to gain more traction from the underground rap scene. Critics actually described her as this exciting new female artist, actually described her as the most exciting new female artist, which shows that she wasn't competing with women anymore. Like, she was breaking boundaries. And most of the time with female artists, they really do try box them, especially in the rap scene, because rap is normally just flooded with males. She's making so much movement as a woman. And they were like, what? In 2009, Nicki Minaj released a mixtape, Beam Up Scotty, and this absolutely rocked the boat. This featured singles like Itty Bitty Piggy and I Get Crazy. And fans absolutely loved the fact that she could switch up between playful characters, rapid fire rap, and fun personas within the same song. And I feel like this is very, very, very different from everybody else. Like, as I've been repeating over and over, Nicki Minaj was just a breath of fresh air within the rap community and something that people actually had and were forced to look up to. I mean, arguably she is one of the OG GOATs, but we'll get to that. Her colorful personality and a confident delivery within these videos actually made her stand out from the rest of the aspiring rappers. And this is when she actually caught the eye of someone who would eventually change her life forever. One of the first major people to recognize Nicki Minaj was a music executive named Big Fendi. This is one of the major turning points in Nicki's career. Big Fendi actually encouraged Nicki to lean into this larger-than-life persona, to really lean into these different voices that she would use whilst rapping. And if you go back and listen to her music, you will hear the distinctions between these voices and her bold fashion sense. And I really do think that this is what attracted people to her, and it really did expand her already creative mind. Nicki attended LaGuardia High School. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce it, but she originally wanted to become an actress before pursuing music. By the early 2000s, Nicki only had one goal: to escape the life that she had always known. She believed music was her only way out. So before she was Nicki Minaj, the pink-haired, chart-topping superstar, she was just another aspiring rapper in such a competitive city. And if you didn't know, New York has a very, very vast rap scene. So luckily for her, it was actually very lucky for her to find her niche. She was actually noticed. She actually graduated from LaGuardia High School. I really don't know how to pronounce that high school name, but it was a high school of music and art and performing arts. So she did really, really well. And she decided to pursue being an actress, but she was really struggling to find consistent work in there. So she just realized that the actress life just wasn't working for her. So she actually adopted the name Nicki Minaj, Nicki coming from the name Onika, because one of her coworkers actually ended up calling her that. And then one of her managers decided to give her the surname Minaj. And at first she wasn't too fond of it, but then she eventually embraced it and she really likes the name today. So back in the day, they used to have this app called MySpace. I actually know nothing about this, but my older sister talks about this so much because this was before Instagram and TikTok. So everybody then was using MySpace. So Nicki was going under various usernames, various accounts, just rapping, creating mixtapes. And I think this is very authentic. And I think this is when she started growing. So Nicki would log on to MySpace and she would release freestyle videos, original songs, music snippets, and just upload photos, of which I've seen some of these old photos, and I think they're just so aesthetic and very authentic. You can really tell that her heart was in it. And I feel like Her legacy was supposed to be so legendary because oh my gosh, guys, I'm getting ahead of myself, but she was supposed to be one of the OG GOATs. One thing noted about Nicki that I'm pretty sure no one can deny is her crazy lyricism, her fast pace, the way she forms her words, her storytelling. It was undeniable. It was showing Nicki Minaj was not just a new artist anymore. She was a whole moment, even crossing into pop, collaborating with artists such as Ariana Grande and Jessie J in the song Bang Bang. Guys, go back and listen to that song and you will just realize just how much she was making a name for herself. She was just as successful on the rap charts as she was in the pop charts. That is absolutely insane. I am just waiting to see another female rapper do what Nicki Minaj did. I'm waiting. Let's wait together, guys. Oh, we'd be waiting forever. Nicki Minaj's fan base, also known as the Barbs, are arguably one of the biggest, most dedicated fan bases of all time. They double her numbers and they also defend her rights and wrongs, which, I mean, a lot of people do that with their artists. I would say the only fan bases that compete with how dedicated Nicki Minaj's fan bases are, I would say the Bees that support Beyonce and the Swifties that support Taylor Swift. Don't even judge me for reading because this is a lot, guys, okay? This is a lot. 5 studio albums. You won't meet a lot of artists that have 5 studio albums. More than 100 credited singles, hundreds of chart entries across Billboard charts, multiple #1 albums, and the first female rapper with numerous chart milestones and record-breaking achievements during the streaming era. So she was undeniable, absolutely undeniable. Like, denying that Nicki Minaj has an absolutely smashing legacy, you'd be lying to yourself. You'd be lying to yourself. Okay, so finally, the fall. What happened to Nicki Minaj? Why do so many people talk about her in a negative light today when about 7 years ago, everybody was saying that she was the biggest female artist of all time? Now we're in 2018. And Nicki Minaj had been reigning the top of the hip-hop charts for nearly a decade. Around this time, other artists started entering the chat, such as Cardi B, Doja Cat, Latto started receiving commercial success. And let's not forget Megan Thee Stallion. And for the first time ever, Nicki Minaj was not the only female rapper. So obviously, the internet is going to do what it's going to do. People got online, those keyboard warriors, and start comparing all these different artists instead of letting them all exist simultaneously. Here it goes. The fans and the media outlets actively pushing the narrative of who's doing better, whose flows are better, whose lyricism is better, even though these individual artists have expressed on numerous occasions respect for each other. The internet is going to do what the internet is going to do. If you did not have a phone, an iPad, a computer in 2018, it was going to be the only way you didn't know about the Cardi B versus Nicki Minaj feud. I was 11 years old and I knew everything about this beef. And so did my sister. And me and my sister have a huge age gap and we were both keeping track. And that's how you know this was a big thing. In September of 2018, Cardi B confronted Nicki Minaj at Harper's Bazaar, accusing her of making sly comments about her parenting. This confrontation escalated in Cardi B actually throwing a shoe at Nicki Minaj before security intervened. No criminal charges were pressed. However, this incident did become international news and became one of the biggest pop culture moments of its time. Now, this is a quote directly from Nicki Minaj on the radio about Cardi B. She said, word for word, she built her career off of sympathy and payola. And payola is actually, it refers to an illegal practice of paying for radio airplay without disclosing it. Even though Nicki Minaj did deny ever dissing Cardi's child, She reportedly said herself, "I would never discuss anyone's child." She also said the incident was mortifying and humiliating. And she said, "I would never talk about anyone's child or parenting," which I agree. I don't know where Cardi B got the sources from, but that whole incident was so crazy. Like, guys, I remember being on the internet, being like, staring at my phone with my 11-year-old self, like, what? I found this quote and I think it's very, very funny. She said, when discussing about the incident Fashion Week, she said, "This is not funny. Get this woman some effing help. This woman's at the highest point in her career and she's throwing shoes." I think that's so hilarious. I think Nicki Minaj is hilarious, but some of her actions that we're gonna get into, I do not agree with whatsoever. For weeks, the headlines actually focused more on Cardi B and Nicki Minaj's beef more than her newly released album, Queens. Queen was released in 2018 and performed exceptionally well, charting number 2 on the Billboard 200. And this did perform very strongly, but Nicki Minaj did express frustration with the way that the album performed. She actually criticized new music practices such as streaming and promotional decisions. And for the first time, people's perception had shifted from positive to negative. People were talking about Nicki Minaj's character more than the music itself. At first, people adored the different wigs, the different aesthetics, different voices, and her lyricism. And now it was, Nicki Minaj is now beefing with this media outlet, and she's beefing with the fans online. And now it becomes a different conversation. She had always been an outspoken person. She always argued with media outlets. It's nothing new. But now, when does it become too much? People were praising her for her authenticity, and now it was being perceived as ghetto. Okay, now we're getting a bit more serious. Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, has faced legal issues regarding criminal record, including legal proceedings connected to SEX offender registration requirements. Nicki's brother, Jelani Mirage, was convicted of child charges. Please read my lips because I'm not getting demonetized. And these charges do not involve Nicki herself, but the way that she does support her family members really does raise some eyebrows, the way that she comes to their defense, especially her brother. His legal issues, they involve a child. So this is very concerning. As you can see, her public image has been unreversibly changed and shifted by her different controversies. And we're not even at the end. We're not even at the end of the controversial side of this video, okay? This particular controversy started on the 13th of September, 2021, regarding the COVID vaccine controversy, right? This is when COVID was hitting. Obviously, people went into lockdown. And Nicki Minaj wrote to her Twitter that her cousin in Trinidad would not get vaccinated because his friend allegedly became impotent and developed swollen testicles after receiving a COVID-19 vaccine, claiming that the man's fiance called off their wedding. I didn't make that up. Guys, go research about it. I'm actually holding in a crazy laugh right now because what? What led Nicki Minaj to actually write that tweet was because she wasn't attending the 2021 Met Gala, and fans were asking her, "Oh, Nicki, why aren't you going?" And that's when she wrote that tweet, right? And obviously, she received crazy backlash. Because what do you mean you're not getting vaccinated because your cousin in Trinidad got swollen balls? And now you're telling people not to get vaccinated. Mind you, this is a health concern, right? COVID-19 was spreading like a wildfire, and people are being encouraged to be safe and get vaccinated. And she's out here talking about swollen testicles. So medical professionals, journalists, and public health experts expressed concern that this story would discourage people from getting vaccinated for the global pandemic disease. Like, you see, it's actually very scary, especially the fact that I've mentioned that the Barbs are such a huge community online. Imagine how many people were not getting vaccinated for COVID just because she said this, that her cousin's fiance called off the wedding because he had swollen testicles. I can't get over that. Sorry guys, I can't get over it. For years, Megan Thee Stallion had notably said that Nicki Minaj was one of her biggest inspirations in her rap career. They even collaborated in a song, and people saw this as the passing of the torch. But years later, all of that would change with Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion. In this song they collaborated on, Hot Girl Summer, fans celebrated this as Nicki Minaj praising another female rising star in the rap scene. People were just so excited about this. Who is this new girl? And why is Nicki Minaj hyping her up so much? However, this took a bitter turn when Megan Thee Stallion decided to collaborate with Cardi B in 2020 on the song WAP. So I'm not gonna lie, the song WAP really did it for me in 2020, which is highly inappropriate because at the time I was 13. What business did I have singing WAP in the lounge in my living room? Like, you get what I mean? But anyways, the previous year in 2019, Hot Girl Summer came out with Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj. And then the next year, Megan Thee Stallion collaborates with Cardi B in WAP. And we have already previously talked about Cardi B and Nicki Minaj's feud. So everybody saw that, and automatically in all of our minds, we decided that Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj were beefing. Even though they haven't outwardly put it in their music or said in interviews, it just, it was just a conclusion in everybody's head. So now, we're in 2024, where Megan Thee Stallion releases the song Hiss, okay? And you cannot tell me that song did not do numbers. Because if you go back and look at the charts, it did numbers. And we're not going to talk about the numbers there because this video is not about that. But yeah, it really did go platinum. This song criticizes unnamed opponents, but there was one lyric that dominated the conversation. And I quote from the song, "These hoes don't be mad at Megan. These hoes be mad at Megan's Law." So Megan's Law is the name of US laws requiring information about registered offenders to be publicly available. Although Nicki Minaj was never publicly stated in the song and there were no other digs towards her, her husband is actually a registered offender, as we've talked about previously. And fans actually interpreted this lyric into Megan taking a diss at Nicki. And Nicki actually obviously saw this the same way too. I do see this as the internet actually just stirring up unnecessary beef. And I think Nicki was never, I don't even think Nicki was even a thought in Megan's head as she was writing down this lyric. I think this was an absolute reach. And I think her fans know better, and I think Nicki also knows better because this was just diabolical. She's talking about people who offend. She's not talking about anyone in particular. So within hours, and I'm talking hours, of Megan Thee Stallion coming out with this song, Nicki starts to post extensively on social media. I'm talking post after post after post. My whole FYP on TikTok and Instagram was Nicki dissing Megan. And I'm not talking normal disses like, oh yeah, she like this, she was saying the most heinous things I wouldn't even say to someone I disliked with a passion. Like, this was pure hatred. Nicki went on social media and called Megan a pathological liar, called her a disgusting serpent, and then released the track Bigfoot. And this was a major cause of concern for people who have been listening to Nicki Minaj, for example, me. I've listened to Nicki Minaj basically my whole life. And when I heard the response track to Megan's diss track on Nicki, I heard this and my jaw was on the floor because I did not expect Nicki to say so many heinous things. Like I will tell you myself, Nicki has said some questionable things about people on her tracks, but this was just disgusting. Like I heard this and I was like, Nicki, what are we doing now? What are we doing now mentioning people's deceased relatives? And these are one of the quotes from her song that Nicki said. She said, "Bullet fragment foot, bitch," right? And continued criticizing Megan over several times. And this song, Bigfoot, did reference Megan's height. It referenced her late mother. Yes, her late mum. And it also referenced the 2020 shooting of which Megan was injured. And as somebody who has listened to Nicki Minaj for such a long time, listening to the song really did leave a bad taste in my mouth about her, because I really liked her music and I liked the way most of the time she wouldn't be chatting too much. She'd just hop in the booth and, you know, write about it. But this time when she hopped in the booth, and of which the whole thing is about her saying that people who do bad things to women, and even women who do bad things to men in that aspect, the aspect should be held accountable, which I think everybody should agree with. And because she said that, all of a sudden Nicki Minaj is now mentioning crazy things. Like, it's just so crazy how even the Barbs are praising her for standing up for herself while saying such crazy things. And on top of that, the song didn't even chart. The song didn't chart. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, I listened to that, I was like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Some fans did defend her in this, and other people and music critics actually said that the feud between Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj was overshadowing her actual music. And on top of that, people were saying that Hiss was doing better. So people were just saying, Nicki, get in the booth and write something proper, catchy that we can sing along to, and maybe we'd be on your side. But it's just like, I have no other words than what we doing. So in the past, Nicki Minaj was considered not to be a Trump supporter because she did criticize some of the policies that, you know, he was endorsing and stuff, right? One of these examples was criticizing Trump's immigration policy, okay? Because Nicki Minaj herself was an immigrant. She is an immigrant. In 2018, during the controversy of migrant children being separated from their parents in the US at the border of Mexico, Nicki Minaj posted to Instagram, and I quote, "I came to this country as an illegal immigrant at 5 years old. I can't imagine the horror of being in a strange place and having my parents stripped away from me at the age of 5. This is so scary to me. Please stop this." So obviously people saw this post and were like, okay, she's not a Trump supporter because she posted this. But then she also said that Trump was entertaining on the Celebrity Apprentice, saying, "On Celebrity Apprentice, I think he was funny as hell." I don't even know. For most of Nicki Minaj's career, she embraced shock value, larger-than-life personas, and explicit lyrics. But years later, she surprised fans by admitting that some of the messages in her songs do not reflect who she is anymore. Even people who don't support Nicki Minaj acknowledge her influence. Before Nicki, there were successful women in rap, but nobody and few achieved the same sustained mainstream global dominance in the 2010s. Many artists like Cardi B, Latto, Doja Cat, and Megan Thee Stallion have stated before that Nicki Minaj was a huge influence and inspiration to them. She did single-handedly change the face of female rap. Nicki Minaj's career is a story of extraordinary ambition, A young girl who grew up in a turbulent environment transformed herself into one of the most influential rappers of all time. Along the way, she broke records and redefined what success could look like for women in hip-hop. Yet, her story also shows how fame can evolve in the age of social media, where every achievement and every controversy can shape a legacy. Whether history chooses to remember her as a household name or a controversial figure, or both, one thing is for certain: you can't talk about the story of Nicki Minaj without talking about her lasting mark that she has left on music in general. And that is it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please put a thumbs up. I have been filming for 4 hours now. 4 hours for a video that's probably gonna be like, what, 40 minutes? Like, please leave a thumbs up if you like this video, and please subscribe if you want to see more. Yeah, that's all for me. Bye.